Healthcare in this district is at best poor.
The PCs kicked off week 2 on the campaign trail in Lewisport with yet another healthcare announcement. That's just ahead.
It's already challenging enough having had gone through that and struggling through managing his chronic illness in a community where, we are limited to what specialty care we can access.
A Happy Valley Goose Bay mother is paying thousands of dollars out of pocket for her son's medication because he's too young to be covered.
The next day they were gone. 20 of the 28 that we put up were gone.
Stolen signs, online abuse, and unhappy voters, the darker side of the municipal election.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. We begin with the provincial election. In the wake of the devastating Kingston wildfires, today Liberal leader John Hogan is promising to better prepare the province for more wildfires. He says if elected, tax credits, money, training and equipment are coming with a crucial role for Gander. And that's where Heather Gillis picks up the story.
The scars from the Kingston fire are as etched into the landscape as they are of the minds of people in Conception Bay North who had to flee it. Today on the campaign trail, Liberal leader John Hogan announced measures to prepare for future fires.
But I don't think we can afford not to take these steps.
If re-elected, Hogan promised new laws to compensate volunteer firefighters, search and rescue, and service groups during a crisis. He'll double the volunteer firefighter and search and rescue tax credit and buy a new heavy lift helicopter.
We will also complete the repair of our province's damaged water bomber aircraft and procure 2 Bird Dog aircrafts. And through the Atlantic Wildfire Centre,
Hogan also pledged mobile incident command trailers pre-deployed across the province, more training and equipment for forestry and fire crews, along with permanent fire breaks for some areas. He made all of these promises more than 300 kilometers away from the epicenter of the Kingston fire. But the Liberal leader says Gander will be home to the Atlantic Wildfire Centre. And as a town known for its aviation industry, Hogan says Gander will have a new role with the aircraft.
If there's a place for our assets, and certainly as we work on our Medivy contract with regards to our air and road ambulance integration system, Gander will be a base for that. And these all go hand in hand.
Gander Mayor Percy Farwell says he's cautiously optimistic what the Atlantic Fire Centre would mean.
It's for the service to the entire province and the rest of Atlantic Canada and beyond, really.
In this bustling coffee shop, Hogan and Liberal candidate Bettina Ford heard from voters, though that health care is their biggest issue.
We'd love to see retention of nurses at home, less travel nurses, obviously commitment to nurses and students who are coming out of school like us.
Still, waiting 6 months or a year for an appointment is still a big issue with me. There's too long of a time frame.
Come Election Day, no matter the outcome, a newly minted MHA will head to the House after longtime Cabinet Minister John Haggie didn't seek re-election. Hogan also announced today that if re-elected, he would create a provincial service medal for volunteers and first responders who make exceptional contributions during times of crisis. Heather Gillis, CBC News, Gander.
Well, the Progressive Conservatives started their week in central Newfoundland, where they once again committed to improving health care in rural communities. Here Now's Henrika Wilhelm has the details from Lewisport.
He came to see what isn't there.
So it's set up so a doctor would have 2 of these rooms. Now, if you step in here...
But there are no doctors, no patients, despite fully equipped rooms ready to go.
$70,000 with equipment sitting idle for 8 years.
A healthcare facility built with the understanding that the health authority would staff it, but that never happened. It's yet another opportunity for Wakeham to promise better healthcare under a PC government and point out Liberal shortcomings.
Why did this building never open? Why did it never provide the services it was built for? That's a question that we need answered.
And while CBC News asked N.L. Health Services that same question, the health authority wasn't able to comment by deadline. For some of the residents who showed up at the event, it's been disappointing.
It lowers your happiness. You're absolutely looking forward to having something that is to us, state of the art in this community. And just to see it sitting there and not utilized is absolutely sad.
Instead, Morrill said she relies on virtual care. It's something many in the district struggle with, says local PC candidate Mark Butt.
A lot of seniors, they want one-on-one care. They're not familiar, they're not comfortable with the virtual side of it.
And so Wakeham promised a minimum of 6 family doctors instead of the current 2 and a 24/7 ER, as well as an incentive program to cover overhead costs for healthcare staff to address recruitment and retention issues, yet with few details on what that would look like.
If you want to fix healthcare, go talk to the people that work in it. And they have solutions. And they're not always about more money. They're about how we can make our system better. And I intend to listen.
These people believe it's time for change and that Wakeham will make it happen.
It's about doing things right, really meeting the people where they are. If you don't come down to where the needs are, don't bother to come, because it doesn't work. I've never met this man before in my life, but my vote goes to him because heart matters.
I honestly think that he has the plan in place. He gave a little bit of detail as to what that plan was, and I'm sure there will be more elaboration as we need it.
While this empty building was chosen as backdrop for today's announcement, Wakeham didn't actually commit to opening it if elected. Rather, he said he will look at improving healthcare access in the region and at whether this facility could play a part in that. Henrike Wilhelm, CBC News, Lewisport.
Still with the PCs, leader Tony Wakeham wrapped up the first week of the campaign on Saturday with a visit to the district of Fortune Bay, Cape Lejeune, and a focus on the seafood industry. He promised to elevate the sector inside the halls of government.
In this province, the fishery must never be treated like an afterthought. That's why I'm here today to announce that when a new PC cabinet is sworn in, you will finally see a return to a dedicated Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture. And I'm also here to say that minister will have a strong mandate, not just to stand up for our fisheries, but also to stand up for our aquaculture industry, which holds the key to the future for so many local jobs and businesses.
Turning now to the NDP, the party's leader says if elected, his party will end what he calls the revolving door between former cabinet ministers and corporate boards. Jim Dinn says too many cabinet ministers leave government and then take on jobs that involve lobbying the government. Dinn says the NDP would change the conflict of interest rules by extending the so-called cooling off period for former MHAs from 12 months to 2 years.
From our point of view, you shouldn't be able to cash in within months of leaving the office. It's buying access, plain and simple. It's not allowed in most provinces, and it's not allowed federally. It's this kind of thing that erodes trust in the government decision-making process. So let me be clear. Decisions here in the province should be made in the best interests of the people of Newfoundland and Labrador. Pure and simple. That's it.
This is what most street corners look like across Newfoundland and Labrador right now. Signs for the upcoming municipal election, and a ton of new faces are running for its space in their town council chambers. But with a run for public office comes feedback from the public and sometimes pettiness.
Wendy Squires Ennis is running to become a town councillor for the first time in Portugal Cove, St. Phillips. Shortly after she posted her pink signs, many of them went missing.
We spent about 4 hours over one weekend putting them up around the community, all through side roads and main roads, and the larger ones like this one. The next day they were gone. 20 of the 28 that we put up were gone.
She noticed when she was driving by.
So it was one after another after another. That took a lot of work for someone to do that.
Ennis wasn't the only one to have her signs stolen. Her signs were found shortly after by residents in the community, and she put them back up to show she's committed to the race.
Things like this don't get me down. I've made the joke, I came out fighting at only 2 pounds 11 ounces, so I'm not going anywhere.
But that thick skin to get up and keep going is what Hermitage Mayor Steve Crew says is needed for politics. He's been on town council for half his life. This term, he's taking a break from the role he loved, partly because social media has changed things.
Social media can kill you.
It's been a point of discussion among municipal leaders who regularly receive criticism online for their politics and their personal life.
First of all, you got to try to not take it personally. Sometimes it's hard because they attack you personally.
Cruz said being on town council is not for the faint of heart.
Some of these new councillors probably won't last a year. You know what I mean? Because they don't realize, they think they're going to save the world because they see from the outside all this stuff that they want to get done. And when they get on council, they was like, this is not as easy as I thought.
The roles are often volunteer. In recent years, Cruz said he got $1,000 for the role that he gave back to Hermitage through his town's taxes. Municipalities NL said the criticism politicians face sometimes discourage people from running, people who have good intentions for their communities.
That's why we put our names on ballots, to support our communities. So to have to deal with behaviors and comments like that, then, it's definitely, it's not right.
Crew might be stepping out of public life for a little while, but he's not writing off a future in provincial politics. As for Squires Ennis, she is fighting for a seat in her town council's chambers. Election sign up or down. Jenna Head, CBC News, Portugal Cove, St. Phillips.
The RCMP have arrested a man following last week's shelter-in-place order in Catalina. A 31-year-old man is facing charges including assault, kidnapping, flight from police as well. The RCMP say on Thursday evening, officers witnessed a woman calling for help as she was being forced inside a vehicle. Police attempted to pursue the vehicle, but eventually abandoned the chase. As officers continued to search for the suspect on Friday morning, they issued the shelter-in-place order. Now, police later located the man on Saturday morning. The woman was also safely located at that time. The RCMP say the suspect is being held to appear in court. And still with news from the courts, dramatic testimony today in the trial for accused sexual predator Tony Humby. As a witness described the alleged assaults he endured, including one involving a gun. Now, Ryan Cook reports, but first a warning, this story does contain graphic details of sexual assault.
I'm a victim of Tony Humby. Those were some of the first words spoken by the fifth complainant to take the stand against Humby so far in this trial. The man says he met Humby through a friend when he was 14 or 15, and they'd take drives together and smoke weed that Humby provided. But he says the friendship took a turn about 2 months into it, during an incident at Humby's trailer, where he says Humby showed him 2 guns and threatened his life. That's when he says he was raped by the man more than 30 years his senior. The complainant says Humby held one of the guns throughout that first alleged assault, but on cross-examination, defense lawyer Mark Grushy revealed the man didn't tell that to police in his first statement in 2023. Grushy questioned the man on several inconsistencies in what he told the police versus what he told the court. The man said he remembered some things later and that he told investigators he made mistakes. In total, he's now alleging he was assaulted 6 times over the course of about 3 years. Now, Humby's courtroom behavior was flagged during the man's testimony when a sheriff's officer reported Humby was shaking his head and sighing loudly at times. Grushy said Humby told him he was having a strong emotional reaction to the man's evidence and promised to keep it under control. Testimony continues Tuesday with the same complainant still under cross-examination. Ryan Cook, CBC News, St. John's.
Still with the courts, the trial of a St. John's man accused of second-degree murder began this afternoon. Robert Belbin was charged in 2023 after a man suffered injuries on Mayor Avenue in St. John's during an altercation with another man. 22-year-old Seamus Secord was taken to hospital where he died. No weapon has been recovered by police. A 14-person jury of 8 men and 6 women was selected earlier today. The trial is scheduled for 6 weeks.
Well, not a bad day today, that's for sure. Lots of sunshine, some mild temperatures as well, but we do have some showers up across parts of Labrador, and that is going to continue as we head through the night tonight, especially for Lab West along the strait, and then we'll see some of those showers make their way towards the island portion of the province as well. As we head through tomorrow, most of us will see some sort of shower activity, and then we've got more rain and some breezy conditions as we head towards the weekend. I'll get into all of that coming up a little later.
A Happy Valley Goose Bay family is paying thousands of dollars out of pocket for essential medication for their 4-year-old son. Reagan Burden has that story.
Hillary Fry has seen her 4-year-old son Reed in situations that no parent ever wants to. Back and forth to the emergency room, admitted to the hospital, intubated, and medevac to St. John's. Reed has asthma. He was prescribed many medications and puffers, but nothing seemed to work until Reed was prescribed Dupixent.
So we started it in January, and the last 2 viruses, he has done amazing. We haven't had to bring him to hospital. We haven't had to initiate oral steroids. This particular drug is costing us $1,100 out of pocket every 4 weeks. So $1,100 per 2 mils of medication.
Reed gets the drug through an injection in his leg every 4 weeks. The family pays out of pocket because the drug is not approved to treat asthma in children under the age of 6. It's what's considered an off-label prescription. The drug is also used to treat eczema, and for that condition, it is approved for use in small children. In other words, if Reed had eczema, his Dupixent prescription would be covered, but since he has asthma, it is not. The family has applied for coverage through their insurance, provincial government programs, Health Canada, and the drug company, but have not been approved.
It's already challenging enough having had gone through that and struggling through managing his chronic illness in a community where, you know, we are limited to what specialty care we can access, and now on top of worrying about how we're going to continue to provide him this medication long term is tough because it is a long-term medication. My family, you know, is privileged to have resources to shift around, to have the family support, to have the health literacy to access certain services. That not everyone has that, and so for folks who aren't in a privileged position, like, what do? Do they just go without? I don't know.
Despite the cost, Fry says her family will continue to pay out of pocket for this medication, but they are frustrated that they haven't been able to find any solutions and that there are no policies in place to help families in situations like hers.
The policies are very much a one-size-fits-all. They don't take into account, you know, different family needs, location, access to available services. You know, for example, the night that Reed was medevaced out, there was a snowstorm coming. We just made it by the skin of our teeth. And so, you know, the fear of something like that ever happening again, living, you know, in a community where we are limited to certain services it's scary. And I think that the government really needs to look at their policies and think about making them fit the people and not making people fit the policy.
Hilary Fry has had to take on a second job to cover the cost of her son's medications. And if there are no policy changes, they'll keep paying for almost another year and a half. The family expects to pay around $22,000 between now and Reed's 6th birthday. Reagan Burden, CBC News, Happy Valley Goose Bay.
The province is denying any wrongdoing in the death of an inmate nearly 2 years ago. Seamus Flynn died in December 2023 while serving a sentence for theft and weapons offenses. Ariana Kelland reports.
Jerome Flynn filed a lawsuit against the government more than a year ago. He alleged his son Seamus died after being subjected to, quote, inhumane conditions and brutal assaults by staff at Her Majesty's Penitentiary in St. John's. Last month, the province filed its defense at Supreme Court, denying any allegation that its action or inaction resulted in Flynn's death. Last year, Cindy Flynn told CBC News that an autopsy revealed her son had viral influenza, which turned into a bacterial infection. He was also suffering from severe pneumonia and became septic. Less than 2 weeks before his death, Flynn had called CBC News himself to say that he and other inmates had been beaten unnecessarily by prison guards that October. Police investigated this in the wake of Flynn's death, but no charges were laid. Jerome Flynn wants the province to pay for damages and costs, including the costs of his son's funeral. Meanwhile, the province is asking for the claim to be dismissed and costs awarded to the government. No date has been set yet for the case to be heard. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
Ashley, it's hard to believe, but fall has officially arrived.
It did. Earlier today, around 3:49 is when fall officially arrived. Take a look at these sunset times, sunrise and sunset times. About 6:47 in St. John's this morning, and the sunset will be just before 7 o'clock. 6:58. So this is basically when we see equal day and equal night. So here's a couple of other days, or a couple of other areas that are seeing sunsets after 7 o'clock. Gander, Corner Brook, and Lab City. In fact, Lab City won't see the sunset today until 7:25 p.m. And right now we're at about 12 hours and 10 minutes of daylight. So not quite equal, and we will lose, we're going to continue to lose daylight until we get, obviously, until the winter solstice. But so the month of September is very interesting because we lose the most amount of sun or daylight in the month of September. So when we started the month, anywhere from about 7:43 to 8:15 were the sunset times across parts of the province. And then take a look at where we are by the time we get to October 1st. So down to 6:39 in St. John's, Gander 6:47, and then Happy Valley Goose Bay, you're around 6:37. Now this is obviously all local time. So the month of September is when we lose the most amount, which makes sense as we go forward. Now, today certainly did not feel like fall out there. 19 degrees in St. John's today. Terra Nova saw a high near 21. Up across Labrador, definitely feeling a little bit more fall-like, anywhere from about 10 to as much as 16 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay. But this is still well above where you should be sitting for this time of year. Taking a look at the current temperatures, haven't really lost a whole lot, but as we head through the night tonight, we will continue to see those temperatures drop. We've just got a little bit of cloud cover. Most of the island should stay clear or increasing cloud for the most part, but fairly lovely night tonight. If we look well to our south, beautiful looking hurricane, let's be completely honest, on satellite. You can see that eye, which is indicative of a very strong hurricane, and you can see that as you go forward in time there. This is Hurricane Gabriel, and it is now just upgraded to a Category 4 hurricane, with those winds gusting as high as 270 kilometers per hour. The good news is this is going to stay well to our south, so we won't see any impact from this storm. But like I said, beautiful on satellite. Taking a look at what's going to continue through the night tonight, just looking at some shower chances for Lab West along the strait as well for the northern peninsula. And that's about it. Otherwise, just some increasing cloud across the island, but a fairly nice night. We'll see those showers by the time we get into the morning hours for the west coast of the island. Overall, anywhere from about 6 to 11 degrees. The coolest temperatures will be through central in low-lying areas. And then for Labrador, anywhere from 3 to 7 degrees as your overnight lows tonight. And then as we head through the day tomorrow, expect that shower activity to continue, isolated or scattered, I should say, in nature on the west coast. Eastern areas of the island will see some cloudy periods, maybe some sunny breaks. We'll see those showers arrive late in the afternoon and early evening. And then for the most part, Labrador will eventually see some clearing skies, especially as we get towards the evening and overnight. And then temperatures tomorrow, a little cool on the northern peninsula. You'll only top out between 9 to 11 degrees through the day. The rest of the island looking fairly decent, 16 to 18 degrees as our daytime highs, with a little wind, 20 to 25 kilometer per hour winds out of the southwest. Then for Labrador, temperatures will sit somewhere between 9 to 13 degrees, and again, a little unsettled. Long range forecasts, breezy winds and the potential for some rain. I'll get into that a little later.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, in an unusual turn of events in the provincial election campaign, former NDP leader Alison Coffin announced today she will run as an independent in not just one, but 2 districts. And neither of those districts is St. John's East Kitivity, where she was elected in 2019 and lost by only 53 votes in 2021. Now, Coffin has secured nominations as an independent in Carbonear, Trinity Bay de Verde, and Harbour Grace, Port de Grave. So many questions about this, and Alison Coffin joins me now to answer some of them. She's in Spaniards Bay. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for reaching out.
So first of all, I spoke with Elections N.L, and yes, a candidate is permitted to run in multiple districts at once, or at least there's nothing in the act that prohibits it. But can you start by telling us why you're running in 2 districts in Conception Bay North rather than in your former seat of St. John's East Kitivity?
Well, those are 2 different questions. Let's start with the why am I running in 2 districts as an independent. I've made my home here in Spaniards Bay for the last number of years. My family are here. I shop here. I go to the doctor here. I get my hair done here. And I'm very close to this community. And I've been listening to the people in the community, and they say they want a different voice. They'd like the voice of an independent representing them, and they'd like that independent voice to be mine. So I was in, a humbling position to be offered the nomination to be an independent candidate in both of those districts. So when I contemplated and I read the legislation, I realized that, yes, in fact, it was feasible. And I thought, well, it's truly more democratic if I let the voters decide. So I filed my nomination papers in both districts and have been accepted to be the independent candidate in Harbour Grace, Port de Grave, and Carbonear, Trinity Bay de Verde. The other part, I guess, would be the why not St. John's East Kitivity? Well, I'm not living there anymore, so my connections to the community have been significantly diminished. Of course, they have an excellent New Democratic candidate in the district already.
And I think the other big question people will have, you are the former NDP leader. You say that some people in those 2 districts asked you specifically to run as an independent, but Can you explain that? Like, why not run for the NDP?
Well, a couple of reasons. Certainly, people have asked me to run as an independent because they like to have their voice unfiltered through party politics. So I heard that in repeated samples. I mean, the independents are gaining greater popularity and greater traction in politics all across the country. So I think that's a special thing to be considered for. In terms of not running for the party, well, in running for 2 districts, I mean, that's well outside the confines of a party mandate. And it's going to be distracting for, say, Jim Dinn, who has to put forth the party ideas and build the party platform and ensure that he gets elected and ensure that his other candidates get a fair shake and are promoted as well. So I think he needs to be focusing on that. For me to be able to step away and say, I'm going to run as an independent, I'm going to do something that's quite unusual. I mean, we all recognize that this has not happened before, but we're also going to push the boundaries of electoral reform. And in doing so, I can spearhead this like I have been for the last 4 years. And I think that we can make some very effective change. And for me to be able to do this on my own and not burden Jim Dinn with that, then I think that's a really good sharing of responsibility.
So you're not on the outs with the NDP or anything? Are you still a member of the NDP?
Well, I was up until I think this morning when I said, no, I cannot be an independent and a member of the party. So I had to give up my membership in order to be able to do this. But certainly in the lead up to this, I've had many conversations with Jim Dinn. I talked with him very candidly about what was happening. He tried to twist my arm on a number of occasions, asking me to run. In the end, it took me a long time to decide exactly what I was going to do. And by then even, I think all of the New Democratic candidates had been filled out for all the districts at that point.
Now, as far as anyone can tell, this appears to be a first for someone to be running in 2 districts. And I've asked Elections N.L a few questions about this. And haven't received an answer to all of my questions. But one thing I'm wondering about is what happens if you win both districts? What happens then?
I don't know. Again, this is uncharted territory, and you won't get those answers from Elections Newfoundland and Labrador. Elections Newfoundland and Labrador's job is to run an election. So they are governed by the Elections Act. So within the confines of their abilities and responsibilities and the legislation, everything seems to be in line. I did have a look at the House of Assembly Act, which kind of governs what happens after you get elected, and it seems to be written in a very parallel language, like you are a member for a district. So like Elections Newfoundland and Labrador, you're a candidate, and you can be a candidate in 2 districts. The parallel would be you could be elected potentially as the member for Carbonear Trinity Bay de Verde, and have the responsibilities and rights associated with that. Like you would sit in the House of Assembly and you would have your vote. And you would also be elected as the member for Harbour Grace, Port de Grave, and you would have the rights and responsibilities associated with that in the House of Assembly.
And I am curious, Carbonear Trinity Bay de Verde, that will be a hotly contested seat. There's no incumbent there. That's Steve Crocker's former seat. So you have that district, and then you have Harbour Grace, Port de Grave, seat that Pam Parsons has held for the past decade.
Yes.
So I'm wondering, where do you think your best chance of winning is?
Well, that's kind of hard. I've done the poll-by-poll analysis. I've talked to the people. Again, as an independent, you're really going into this completely blind. You have no resources, you have no signs, you have no phone numbers of anyone in the district. So I'm going on feel, and I'm going on talking to the people that I have approached, because I've been door knocking for a while. I've been on the ground for probably 3 weeks, just getting a sense of where my support might lie. I am being wildly well received across both districts.
Boundaries are definitely being pushed with this 1-2 districts. Very interesting times. Alison Coffin, thank you so much for your time today.
You are very welcome. It's always a pleasure to chat. I'm sure there will be more between now and the 14th.
A nationwide rally called Draw the Line is calling for the Carney government to prioritize the environment and Indigenous rights. In St. John's, protesters joined that call for action on the weekend.
So the Draw the Line event is happening all across Canada today. There's marches in almost every Canadian city. We're just trying to gather as people around here, around the climate. We're doing like sign-up sheets, that sort of thing.
It's call to action. It is concerns with the way that our government is going these days, kind of pulling back on climate initiatives, on environmental protection, on social programs, social justice issues. So we're very concerned about those things, and we think that the federal and provincial governments need to know that there are a lot of people who are not supporting the way that they're moving.
I'd like Prime Minister Carney to know that the only nation that's going to be built with the current idea of these Gull Island and 3 other projects is the Quebec nation, and that it's not going to be a benefit for Newfoundland and Labrador, and we need a new environmental assessment. That's why my sign says environmental laws need teeth, not what Mark Carney has done to environmental laws for these Building Canada projects.
We've all seen the forest fires and the devastation that we've had here in Newfoundland, and it's happening across Canada, and yet there doesn't seem to be any recognition that to keep funding fossil fuel projects is just going to fuel the CO2 emissions and send our planet down a very bad path.
We need to be coordinating action against these climate crises. Our demands also involve acknowledging Indigenous sovereignty. That is very important. We can't effectively resist climate change without decolonizing and then allowing Indigenous groups to have the sovereignty and the choice and the power in how that is done. Provincial and municipal elections are happening here in Newfoundland right now, and we are really hoping that politicians are here and listening to us. That's really important.
The lineup for the 36th annual St. John's International Women's Film Festival was unveiled today, and the executive director of the festival says uplifting stories of connection and friendship are taking top billing this year.
Okay. Everyone good? Yeah. Welcome! The St. John's International Women's Film Festival is Canada's longest running. Established with a bold vision for an equitable, artist-focused screen industry, the festival has championed the creative work of women and gender-diverse artists worldwide since 1989.
You sure we want to go?
The annual anniversary blueberry picking excursion. Why would I want to miss that?
I feel like this film, probably more than any film that I've ever made, I feel like this film is going to really speak to the audiences locally, and I've just kind of been dreaming about this, and I'm so glad we're opening the festival this year. Yeah, so I think it'll be good. This is the second feature film that I've directed. It's probably the 5th or 6th that I've written. I'm much more kind of seasoned as a writer and a filmmaker, but in the TV space more so. So this was like coming home and making art again, and it was so exciting and freeing, and I had just such great support from everybody that worked on the film with me and everybody who supported it financially. So yeah, it was a real gift.
It is my sincere pleasure to announce our 2025 Michelle Jackson Emerging Filmmaker Award winner, Andrea Dunn, with her film Doggy Dog World.
Very honored to be the next Michelle Jackson filmmaker. It's a great award, and it's a great legacy for Michelle Jackson. I think there's just so much support in the artistic community here and so much talent. It's just such a special place and such a special event. We all have a great week, and I'm excited to be here for the full festival and to take it all in.
Well, now to the West Coast, where the Corner Brook Status of Women Council is using art to educate people about technology-based violence.
Hi, my name is Katie Giffen. I'm the Research and Action Coordinator at the Corner Brook Status of Women Council. The exhibit is basically a project that I took on as a way to educate the public about online and tech-based violence, but I wanted to do it in a bit of a different way than, say, like a traditional, presentation or panel discussion or what have you. I really wanted it to be more community-based. I didn't want people to feel as though they had to be a professional artist or have all kinds of arts credentials in order to be able to apply. And they're really powerful, and I think they send the message that we were looking for them to send. So it's more of a play on words, so there's no VR element to it. It's more so that these things take place in online spaces, but they shouldn't be discounted. So a lot of people tend to think that because it takes place online, you can just turn off your phone or turn off your computer or whatever, and that's a simple solution. But that's not true because A, we rely on our devices for so much. It's not realistic to expect somebody to cut off all of the positives that they gain from social media and, just the conveniences of technology for someone else's actions. And also because online violence can very easily translate into in-person violence. I do think that senior education is really important. I think teaching youth about safe social media use would be another good one, and like the normalization of online violence with youth. So things like they may not think that looking at each other's locations on snap maps would be considered cyberstalking, but it actually is. And not to say that it's always harmful, because it's not. Sometimes you're just looking at, oh, what's my friend up to, right? And there's no harm behind it, but it can very easily turn into something with more malicious intent.
Alan Doyle is one of the most recognizable people in this province, but on Saturday afternoon, about a dozen people tried to pass as the famous singer in front of a cheering crowd. The CBC's Zach Gowdy explains.
Is it young Doyle from the 90s?
That is the clearest indication that Jesse McGraw is the winner of the Alan Doyle lookalike contest. It was no ordinary day here in Bannerman Park when the Doyles duked it out on Saturday. McGraw says she wasn't even planning to enter the contest. She just came for the fun, but happened to be wearing some Doyle-esque plaid.
I was super excited for this event because it's kind of just a silly little bit, and I was really excited for the community aspect of it. So I just showed up. Just so happened I had a plaid vest on that I had unbuttoned, but my friend was kind of looking at me like, you can enter. I have a mascara in my purse, and I was like, oh, sure, why not? Why not do it? So I buttoned up my plaid shirt, and we entered and had a blast.
Which Alan Doyle are you, good sir?
I'm the bird from Robin Hood, Alan Doyle.
About a dozen Doyles entered the contest. Organizer Alan Barron says he just wanted to do something fun and silly, and he wanted to see how far he could take this idea without using social media to promote it. Instead, Barron says he put up 50 posters around downtown St. John's and let word of mouth do the rest. As for the judging, Barron says he took a consequence-free approach.
So I would whittle down some people, and then when I had a tough, really hard decision and I needed the help of the people to figure out who the Doyle is, that's what happened. I just get them to applaud. We got down to 3 or 4, and then I chose the winner based on vibe only. Or no, a lot of things, but the vibe was very important. This was a vibe contest. Next year we might make a category for more purists. I don't know.
We'll have some discussions about that. Maybe I'll judge.
As for the ultimate authority on the subject, Alan Doyle himself did not attend, as he is starring in a production of musical Telltale Harbor in Toronto. However, a couple of weeks ago, Doyle shared this photo on Instagram of himself posing next to one of the posters and predicting he would come 4th in the contest. Hey, Alan, there's always next year. Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
It'll likely take a long time before all losses and damages in the area are known.
They want the aquaculture industry to stay where it is.
Residents here who had left while this was happening have been told they can't go back in.
Time for a look at the weather and the long-range forecast. Fall starts today, as you noted earlier. How is the week looking?
Not too bad. We've got a little bit of chances of some showers at play, but temperatures will cool down as we head towards the weekend. Let's take a look at what's going on in long range. So by Tuesday evening, or tomorrow evening, we'll see some showers for most of the island. Labrador will start to clear out as we see a ridge of high pressure move in. So Wednesday is actually going to be pretty beautiful for most of the big land. We will see some showers to start the day on Wednesday, essentially for the eastern half of the island. The western half of the island will actually see some clearing as we head into the afternoon. As this ridge of high pressure dominates the weather picture through the day. So overall, pretty decent evening as well. Temperatures will sit somewhere between 12 to 15 degrees. So a little bit on the cool side for your Wednesday. Up across Labrador, similar temperatures, 13 to 16 degrees. For the most part, Port aux Basques should see a high near 17 degrees through the day. As we head into Thursday, we will continue to see that ridge of high pressure, which will keep the weather fairly nice. We'll likely see some cloud cover up across Labrador and head towards the northern peninsula. Very slight chance of some showers up across the north coast of the big land. But other than that, really, that is it. Temperatures overall should climb up, actually. It's going to be a beautiful afternoon temperature-wise, 15 to 19 degrees across the island portion of the province. And same thing up across Labrador. Like I said, there's a slight chance we'll see some for the north coast, but most of you should just see a mix of sun and cloud through the day. High near 19 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay. That is well above where you should be sitting this time of year. And as we take a look ahead to the long range forecast, those temperatures will continue to sit into the teens through the day, 17 to 18 degrees until we get to the weekend. However, the weekend does look a little unsettled at this point. Some showers Friday, Saturday, for St. John's and Eastern Newfoundland. It's also going to be a little bit breezy as well, and our overnight lows are going to stay between 10 to 15 degrees. Then for central Newfoundland, you'll see some rain on Friday. Saturday at this point looks like it'll clear out. Temperatures will still stay in the teens. However, your overnight lows are going to dip into the single digits Saturday night. Same thing essentially for western Newfoundland with some periods of rain through the day on Friday. Saturday, mix of sun and cloud, 14 degrees. And your overnight low sitting around the 7-degree mark. Now for Labrador overall, Wednesday, Thursday looking absolutely gorgeous, between 16 to 19 degrees, and then cooling down as we get towards the weekend. So down to about 13 and some shower chances both Friday, Saturday. Some peaks of sun still in the mix there. It'll be a lot more cloudy though for those of you in western Labrador. Temperatures really dipping, 9 to 10 degrees, overnight lows 1. By the time we get into Saturday. Our weather photo of the day is a great shot in Witless Bay. What a beautiful weekend it was.
Oh, it was stunning. Oh, look at this little guy.
To get out and enjoy the weather, enjoy the East Coast Trail there. Thank you to Amber for that. This is Kitty the dog.
Kitty the dog.
Enjoying a great hike there. I really enjoy it. You know, when a dog is dirty, they had a good time.
Yep. Happy looking
dog.
I love that the dog's name is Kitty.
I know, it's amazing. I laughed too when I saw that. Thank you so much for that, Amber. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, we love to see them, and they make us smile.
Oh, for sure.
So send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Thank you very much for that, Amber. It's a great way to start off Monday with a pic of an adorable dog named Kitty.
That's right.
And a great looking forecast, too.
Great looking forecast.
I'm loving the look of these temperatures and all this sunshine this week, so I think it's a great start to fall.
It is, and the wind today really made it feel like fall, didn't it?
It did. There was definitely a chill in the air.
I love it, though. I love it. It's my favorite time of the year.
Soon will be time to crack out the scarves.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, well, that's it for us on this Monday evening. Thank you so much for spending part of your evening with us.
Good night.